Hey YouTube, it's ICU and welcome to the 205th episode of Best Tech Info and Rumors. Starting off, let's talk about Apple's upcoming iPhone 6. I was actually planning on doing a separate video on the device because there's been so much news surrounding it recently, but I decided to include it in this week's episode of Best Tech Info and Rumors instead. So starting off, I wanted to preface by saying that this year's been particularly exciting and equally annoying for some. We've seen and heard everything from my exclusive coverage on leaked 4.7-inch and 5.5-inch rear housings to rumors concerning the dual LED flash system, a purported 128GB model that I discussed last week, and the addition of NFC or near-field communication. There have actually been a couple of reports concerning the technology and the iPhone 6, but we'll get to that later. There's also been so much more related to the device that's been in the Apple rumor mill as of late. Thankfully though, the aforementioned rumors are about to come to a close. On Thursday morning, as first publicized by The Loop, Apple has begun issuing invitations to the company's now confirmed September 9th media event. And the tagline for this year's invitation reads, quote, "Wish we could say more." And without reading too much into this specific tagline, historically Apple has proven their invitations to be vague and cryptic messages pertaining to the events. So we'll have to wait until the 9th to know for sure what the company has planned. With that being said though, it's definitely likely that Apple will unveil the iPhone 6, and according to a recent rumor that I'll get to in a second, it's also possible that the company may showcase the highly anticipated and unconfirmed iWatch that's been grabbing rumor headlines for years. And as for the event itself, again, it's scheduled to take place on September 9th at 10 a.m. in Cupertino, California, and I will definitely be sure to have live coverage for you guys on the event, so just be sure to keep it locked to Best Tech Info as well as my YouTube channel, iCrackUriDevice. And now moving on, let's get back to the iPhone 6, actually the successor to the iPhone 6. So while it looks like we're coming to a close on the various rumors for Apple's next generation device as of recording this video, again being the iPhone 6, we've already had our first iPhone 6s rumor. Now, as with every big company, Apple in particular, their products are bound to be of interest and inspire headlines that ripple throughout the blogosphere. Every Apple enthusiast in the world can vouch for that, as we've seen enough iPhone 6 related leaks and rumors to last a lifetime. Now, however, without even announcing the iPhone 6, let alone releasing it, a new rumor was recently publicized by the Chinese Economic Daily News. Now, with less than 2 weeks left between now and Apple's September 9th iPhone 6 unveiling event, the aforementioned publication reports that TSMC, a chip manufacturer that Apple contracts, will enter production stages for the A9 all-in-one chips, which are intended for future Apple devices during the first quarter of 2015. Now, as for the A9 chip itself, it will be the successor to what will likely be the A8 chip that powers the iPhone 6, and the A9 will be found in Apple's 2015 iPhone and iPad models. And now moving on, let's discuss Apple's upcoming iWatch. So ensuing a countless number of rumors over the years pertaining to Apple's much hyped, unannounced, and certainly unofficial iWatch, a new report from Recode has seemingly nailed down the date the highly elusive device will make its grand appearance. And this is actually coming from the same source that originally suggested that Apple's iPhone 6 will be unveiled on September 9th, which it looks like will come to pass. So now, if correct, it appears as though the mythical iWatch will be announced, showcased, and flaunted for the world to marvel at on September 9th. As for the release of such a device, however, as suggested in the original report, in addition to follow-up reports from other sources, it might not be released until 2015, or possibly alongside this year's iPad models. Now moving on, following previous coverage on the upcoming iPhone 6, a Chinese repair company by the name of Geekbar, the same one that previously provided evidence that Apple may offer an iPhone 6 in a 128GB capacity, published a new set of images that seem to suggest the iPhone 6 may finally offer near-field communication or NFC functionality. Now, while rumors of NFC being incorporated into various iPhone models throughout the years are nothing new, this is actually the first tangible piece of evidence that seems to suggest the technology will be coming to Apple's iPhone lineup with the iPhone 6. So the picture that's on the display now is actually a purported iPhone 6 logic or motherboard, and inside the red box is where the iPhone 6's NFC chip will likely affix. And also in a follow-up report, the NFC chip was supposedly pictured, and a 16GB capacity model was supposedly confirmed, which I actually detailed in last week's episode of BestTechInfo and Rumors, from a supply chain list that suggested Apple has put in orders for 16, 64, and 128GB capacities, seemingly omitting the 32GB variation from the mix. And for more details on that, just be sure to check out last week's episode of BestTechInfo and Rumors, which I will have linked to down below in the more info. And another rumor suggests that the iPhone 6, like its predecessors from the time of the iPhone 5 up until the iPhone 5S, will only feature 1GB of RAM. And while it sounds like it's a big deal that it won't be upgraded to 2GB, it's actually not. And the reason behind that is that Apple has the added benefit of being able to develop hardware and software that work better together than any of its Android rivals, because they develop hardware and software that work in synchronous with one another, whereas Android manufacturers aren't able to achieve such a feat because they don't have the same level of control over the software, because Google develops Android to work on a wide array of devices, from smartwatches even before Android Wear was announced, all the way to high-end and luxury smartphones. And because of this, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Google had to make various software limitations, and Android manufacturers aren't able to develop devices that work just as well as Apple devices with lower specifications. So for instance, the user experience of an iPhone 6 with 1GB of RAM may be comparable to that of an Android smartphone with 2 to 4GB of RAM. However, we won't know for sure until the iPhone 6 is officially announced and released, and various sites make their teardowns of the device public. So again, I will keep you guys updated along the way of the information related to the iPhone 6 specs. Just be sure to stay tuned to my channel for more details on that. And releasing an iPhone 6 with 1GB of RAM is actually a pretty good strategy for Apple, because it leaves room for improvement in the future. And now moving on, let's discuss jailbreaking. So for those of you who don't know, you can jailbreak, of course, iOS 7.1 through 7.1.2 using the Pangu Untethered Jailbreak utility. But of course, with each passing hour, we're drawing closer to the unveiling of the iPhone 6 and the subsequent release of iOS 8. So why does that matter, aside from the fact that they'll both be incredible additions to Apple's hardware and software lineups? Well, previously when I discussed the possibility of iOS 7.1.3 being released, I noted that the firmware would patch the Pangu Untethered Jailbreak iOS 7.1.2 utility. Furthermore, it appeared as though the 7.1.2 jailbreak patching 7.1.3 update was in sight, bound for millions of iDevices currently in existence before the window seemingly closed. Now, although a release of 7.1.3 could still happen, it's highly unlikely at this point, considering we're likely a month away from iOS 8's release, which will take place following Apple's September 9th iPhone 6 unveiling event. So if iOS 7.1.3 won't be released to the general public, are iOS 7 through 7.1.2 jailbreakers safe? Not exactly. A greater threat looms on the horizon. Now, in spite of all of the incredible additions in iOS 8, especially continuity to further improve the iOS to OS X crossover ecosystem, actionable notifications, and a plethora of incredible and powerful developer APIs, the next major installment to iOS, which again is intended for mass release next month, poses a threat to current jailbreakers. Now, while new iterations of iOS are certainly appealing, updating will result in the loss of your device's jailbroken status, and because downgrading isn't an option, said device won't be jailbreakable until the hackers on the jailbreak scene develop a new utility. Now, needless to say, that's definitely easier said than done, because in addition to having to jailbreak iOS 8, the developers will also have to jailbreak devices with new CPUs or all-in-one chips, primarily the iPhone 6 with what's expected to be an A8 processor. And for more details on that, including information surrounding a new jailbreak utility that's currently being developed, possibly by multiple teams, just be sure to check out the article that I have linked to down below in the more info on Evasion Jailbreak. Also, really quick, I wanted to kind of loop back to the iPhone 6 and discuss something that's a little peculiar here. So on Friday, a video of what's allegedly an iPhone 6 fully assembled was leaked. Now in the video, it briefly highlights the device before connecting it to iTunes, receiving an error inside of iTunes, and displaying a restore screen on the device itself. Now personally, I think this video could have easily have been fabricated based on the fact that there are some inconsistencies on the iTunes restore screen that actually appears on the device itself. So with that said, I'll merely link you guys to the brief coverage that can be found on Best Tech Info. And now concluding this week's episode, if you guys are interested in my $100 Amazon giveaway, just be sure to rate it up and leave a relevant comment down below in the comment section. If you don't know what to leave in the comment section, try answering the question of the day. Let me know what you guys think about the iPhone 6 now that we're nearing its release, and do you hope that Apple also unveils an iWatch alongside the device? Again, let me know down below in the comment section or on Best Tech Info. And then just be sure to visit bit.ly/get-free-app-life inside of Safari. Once downloaded, install sponsored apps for points and redeem points for prizes. All right, and that's it for this week's episode. Don't forget, if you guys want to be updated more often, just be sure to subscribe if you aren't already, and like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, add me one of your circles inside of Google+, follow me on Instagram at ICUID, and subscribe to my secondary channel at youtube.com/ICUID. I'll update you guys on everything related to the iPhone 6, as well as jailbreaking post iOS 7.1.2. And until next time, this is ICU, signing out.